Hey, what's up everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another One Purpose Magazine digital show. I am grateful for your presence on today. Our show comes on every Thursday night at 8 p.m. sometimes. You know, YouTube has its loading difficulties and sometimes I get stuck in it, so it is what it is. But for the most part, I aim for Thursday night at 8 p.m. So let's get right to it, right? So, what's new with One Purpose Magazine? I always start there. So we have had the opportunity to submit our magazine to, and this is a community thing, so I say our magazine. We had the opportunity to submit our magazine to Apex Publication of Excellence Awards. It's a mouthful. And we were a winner in the category of magazines, tabloids, and journals produced by one or two persons. So I'm happy to say that I was a winner. My annual 2020 issue was a winner. And let me explain why this is important. So I feel like it's important because I don't get as much community support as I would like, but that's okay. You know, that's the one thing about us is that we don't play. You have to prove yourself in our community. And so I'm okay with that. So I've been doing this. This was my actual 4th issue, although I've been in this business for years. That was my 4th issue. And so I'm always looking for, I don't want to say validation, but I'm always looking for support and, you know, just knowing that my work is good and people are understanding it and comprehending it. So when I put it amongst my peers or peers in this industry, it's good to know that I can stand with them, at least in delivering content, delivering layout, delivering a message. That's important to me because anybody can throw a whole bunch of something in a publication and call it a magazine. Anybody can do that. But when it's content driven, like I try to be, and it's focused on a message like I strive to do, it's good to know that people see that and acknowledge it and say, oh, okay, well, yeah, she's delivering good content that drives a message. So that's why that was important for me. So I'm good with that. I'm happy that it was elected as a winner. And it was in the category of like some automotive magazines or whatever, you know, their messaging is their messaging. I haven't received the actual award yet. I'm waiting on it. They say it's mailed out in July. They didn't give a particular date. But when I do, I will hang it in my office because it's something that I'm proud of, big or small. You know, I'm happy to have that recognition and I really appreciate it because it's so many publications, platforms, and things out there. It's good to just be acknowledged and say, for someone to say that in this realm of work, you know, you are a competitor. And so that made me smile and that gave me hope for our next issue, which I can talk about, which will be coming out in September. I'm hoping. I might be pushing it. I'm aiming for September, October, but it will be, I told you all in my last show that I'm transitioning from being released in the spring to being released in the fall. So this will be the annual issue released in the fall. It may be leaning more towards October because, as I said, I won in the category of produced by one or two persons. So I do this pretty much by myself, other than calling on people to write articles for me, which is never really long. So I don't really have a team of writers. I work with freelance writers. And so, you know, it's always me pulling things together. And if I don't like something, it takes me forever to edit my own pieces. So anyway, I just like to give you all a spill because a lot of y'all don't know me. So I try to, every time I talk about myself, give a little background and a little bit of what I got going on until I build an audience that understands me, knows me, and is part of the journey with me. And I probably got one or two out there. That's all you need to start, right? One or two. So I'm looking forward to having that done in October. I'm going to say October. I may strive for September, but it's looking like October. So I'm going to go ahead and say October. So So that's that. And the issue, I'm thinking about focusing, I spoke last year about how I wanted to focus on the arts, and the arts are coming back. I'm so excited about it. Me and my mom were just talking about going to New York to go to a play on Broadway. So the arts are being revived. Yes. So I may focus on the arts and do some profiles on some artists who are finding their way back after COVID and the shutdown, and highlight something in those areas. I'm excited. I love that. So that's my spiel on that. But we'll see. We have more time to talk about that. More time to talk about that for sure. So let me land in my soapbox. In my soapbox, I always find something that I have an issue with, right? How could I not in these times? I'm not saying something is wrong with everybody or everything, but I'm just saying you can always find something wrong, right? So it may not be wrong, but it's just something that kind of bothers me a little bit. You all can tell me what you think. Tell me when I finish, tell me in the comment section, am I reaching, or if it makes sense. You know, I could be reaching, because sometimes I sit in my lonesome in my thoughts, you know, I get so, and I try to find a problem with something, like that could be something to talk about, so I could be reaching. Just tell me. But my issue is with the diversity and inclusion training in corporate America. I'm just trying to see, I don't have a fake audience. I was trying to hear hand claps. I'm tripping. But anyway, now that not that I am against diversity and inclusion. Obviously I'm not. But my people just do not have a history of hating people. So the mandatory diversity and inclusion training is a little weird for Black people of color. I'm sure, you know, all of us. I haven't had this conversation with a lot of Black people. I haven't had the conversation with any Asian people, any Native Americans, or any people of color. I haven't had the conversation. Like I said, this is a thought that came to my own head, and I'm in my soapbox, so I don't mind being here alone. So since we've been the victims of America's gross and immoral treatment of people of color, that's woven throughout the systems of this country, why, oh why, are Black women at the forefront of these trainings? Black women are once again summoned to make America better when they're treated the worst. Is it just me? Maybe it is. Let me know in the comment sections. But I see so many talented women. Now, you know, they're getting the opportunity to provide for their families and jobs and things like that. They're getting titles and leadership, but all of it around diversity and inclusion. And I'm just like, what about what they have the heart desire to do? A lot of them are communications people, right? And so they go into these positions, getting these certifications or certificates to be diversity and inclusion experts. And it's really giving them the job, the task of dealing with a heart issue. Hate is at the root of it, of a lot of these problems that the society is having. Hate is at the root of it. That's a heart issue. You can't fix that. You want to call in people who have been treated the worst in this society and have them train others on how to treat other people or how to treat them? It's weird to me. It's just weird to me. But you all tell me in the comment section what you all think, because it's a little strange. It's a little strange for me. But my next topic is, so the topic that I am going to go into greater, not too much detail with, but I wanted to talk about segregation in the Midwest. We were talking about disinvestment in thriving communities that were built and created and started and established with Black people who benefited from the factories in the Midwest and built livelihoods in the Midwest along the what became the Rust Belt cities, right? So we've talked a little bit about that and how we can reinvest in those communities or preserve the histories of those communities as an example. So there's this organization, Othering and Belonging Institute, that did a study, and they studied the roots of structural racism. It's a project, and it's the 21st century racial residential segregation in the United States, right? And so what they did was they unveiled in June, after several years of investigating, the persistence of racial residential segregation across the United States. And they came out with a national segregation report, which you can find online, and I also share it probably in the article that I'm writing about it. So you can go to the magazine, onepurposemagazine.com, and find the article written, or you can go to belonging.berkeley.edu. I'll try to remember to put it in the comments, in the description section of this video. But they had some key report findings that I would like to share with you. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of reading, so if you don't get my personality for a minute, then forgive me, because I'll be focused on my laptop since I don't have the teleprompter in front of me. But I'm going to read 12 key findings, just in case you don't get an opportunity to go and read the actual report where you can find the key findings. But I just wanted to kind of read through them for a little while, just to point out some of these issues. And I would like to start by saying that I am from Chicago originally, so I definitely understand residential segregation. So keep that in mind as I'm going through. If you're from Chicago and you're familiar with the area, which I'm most familiar with, although we talk about regional Midwest issues, if you're from Chicago, just keep that in mind. You know, we've heard that story throughout the years of how Chicago is a very segregated city. So anyway, I'm going to read the key report findings here. Out of every metropolitan region in the United States with more than 200,000 residents, 81%, that's 169 out of 209, were more segregated as of 2019 than they were in 1990. Wow, right? So Rust Belt cities of the industrial Midwest and Mid-Atlantic disproportionately make up the top 10 most segregated cities. And the list includes Detroit, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Trenton. Chicago isn't listed there. Out of the 113 largest cities examined, only Colorado Springs, Port St. Lucie qualify as integrated under their rubric, which is what they used when they did their studies. Neighborhood poverty rates are highest in segregated communities of color, 21%, which is 3 times higher than in segregated white neighborhoods, 7%. Black children raised in integrated neighborhoods earn nearly $1,000 more as adults per year, and $4,000 more when raised in white neighborhoods than those raised in highly segregated communities of color. Latino children raised in integrated neighborhoods earn $844 more per year as adults, and $5,000 more when raised in white neighborhoods than those raised in highly segregated communities of color. This is deep. Household incomes and home values in white neighborhoods are nearly twice as high as those in segregated communities of color. Home ownership is 77% in highly segregated white neighborhoods, 59% in well-integrated neighborhoods, but just 46% in highly segregated communities of color. 83% of neighborhoods that were given poor ratings or redlined in the 1930s by a federal mortgage policy were as of 2010 highly segregated communities of color. Regions with higher levels of racial residential segregation have higher levels of political polarization, an important implication in the context of gerrymandering and voter suppression. The most segregated regions are the Midwest and Mid-Atlantic, followed by the West Coast. Southern states have lower overall levels of segregation, and the Mountain West and Plain states have the least. So that changes the story, right? That redirects the narrative. That helps with our understanding. That shows you why it is important to know our history. It is important to understand the issues of the Rust Belt. It is very important to understand where we come from, to understand where we are right now. Midwest is more segregated than the South. So when we talk about a great migration back to the South, they're not fleeing into segregation. I mean, they're fleeing from segregation. They're not fleeing back into it. So I don't want to go too deep into this topic. I just wanted to lay out those key points because it lays a foundation for us to continue our story in economic development. And when we hear a lot of what's going on in the news and these stories about voter suppression, and our eyes are focused on Texas right now, but we have to focus our eyes on different areas throughout our region, Midwest region, on what the laws are being passed and what issues are being taken up when it comes to voting rights and things like that. We have to pay attention. We can't get distracted. We have to be aware of what's going on. This is a recent study that was just released and updated on June 30th of 2021. So we have to make sure we're paying attention to the issues as we're talking about economic development in the Midwest regions along the Rust Belt cities, right? So I'm not going to go too far into that, but it really gives me leverage to continue to talk about some of the things that I've been talking about. And I'm excited about that because I like exposing things and showing the community where things were, where things are going, and the potential of how we can redirect it and change things around. When we have evidence, data matters. When we have data that aligns, and that's rare that you have. So a lot of times we have data that doesn't always align with what the reality is. You got your anecdotal stories and you got your data, and a lot of times they don't align, but the anecdotal stories are aligning with the data. So that really gives you the facts and the push to really disclose some things and say, listen, this is what we can do. And we have the power to do that now. So kudos to this organization for bringing this to the forefront. Kudos to them for doing the research. And we just have to talk about it. We can't let good research be buried and ignore it and act like it doesn't exist. I'm excited about the work that we have to do there, as we all should be. So I was going to discuss a little bit about curbing violence in the Rust Belt, since we're on the topic of talking about the Midwest, which is really what I'm talking about all the time. But in going into economic development series, as a part of it, especially in urban cities like Chicago, and curbing violence, and it's hard for me to talk about violence because we have, in the past couple of weeks especially, we have experienced so many mass shootings in Chicago, and just chaos. And it's like, it's hard to speak about it if you don't have solutions, and no one really has solutions that's going to give us a quick fix on a lot of what we are experiencing right now. And so many people are going through present pain, like current hurt. I was just reading an article of a young lady, or a posting, of a young lady who just lost her father to a carjacking. And it's hard to talk about these issues in our community with, in the back of your mind, knowing people are suffering, like people are hurting. And when you don't have the solution, it's a hard conversation to have. And so many people, like I think about when I was working as a mentor for Columbia College, and the young students did a town hall meeting about violence in Chicago. And I think about Windy City Live and them dedicating their platform to talking about violence in Chicago, and then to be in this present day still dealing with it. And what I just talked about has spanned over at least 10 years. and there has been no turnaround, no solutions, and to continue to have this conversation and not be able to offer up any solutions, I feel like I would be doing the same thing the news organizations, what they do. And I try to just motivate us to keep pushing and keep doing the work and keep involving ourselves in the community the best way that we can, so that it can begin to turn around by us investing in the communities. Not to say that I, want to ignore the facts, but we know the facts. We know the devastation. We really do. And the best way to, I think, get us through it over the years is by investing in those communities, investing in the people in those communities, especially investing in the people in those communities, showing them that they are valuable, showing them that we want them. We want to work with them. We want to give them avenues to build generational wealth and come out of poverty and things like that. Like, that should excite us to know that we have great people in communities that need us. And they do, and we should be opening our arms, opening up our companies and organizations and our opportunities. We should be opening them up to them so they can experience them and take things and information back to their own communities. So with all that being said, I don't want to go too much into talking about the violence, but because there are so many stories and data-driven analysis and truths reared by facts that are out there about what's happening in Chicago. We know that. I work for IVDRS, which is the Illinois Violent Death Reporting Center at Northwestern University, and we disseminated a data brief back in 2019 that talks about adolescent firearm homicide in Chicago from 2013 to 2017 and how young Black males are at risk. And it's true. Then data show that 2013 to 2017, the rate ratios between adolescent Black males and all other male adolescent firearm homicide victims increased in that period of time. This indicates an increase in disparity between Chicago young Black males and all other males. Since then, we have seen an increase in Black women homicides too. The same group, our group put out women homicide data that showed an increase in homicide deaths of Black women. And so young Black women for whatever reasons. So with those numbers going up during those periods of time, it's an indication of great loss and wonderful people possibly who could have been great individuals that making a great contribution to our experience here in America and a part of this American project, and they didn't get the opportunity to do that. And so I just want to piggyback to my point in saying how important it is to invest in these communities. And if we're here, we may as well make the best of it. Going back to what the first topic was, we don't want to live in a segregated Midwest. That's not what we want or desire. But in order to get better, we have to begin to invest in our own communities. And how do we do that? We have to circulate the Black dollar, which is something that I think have been said by, so I hear a lot of controversy about this circulating the Black dollar. And I don't really know enough about the other side that's saying it's ineffective to think that way. I haven't really dug into my research on what they're saying, but it's out there, it's being said. Right now though, I don't see the harm in circulating the Black dollar. So what does that mean? To have higher money circulation in Black communities. What it means is that you need to reinvest your money into Black businesses. There needs to be a greater effort to purchase from Black-owned retailers instead of white-owned chains. Another way to circulate money in the African American community is to start our own businesses, which I'm not oblivious to the fact that that's not an easy thing to do. I've been in this whole thing, this game of ownership in media for 10 years, and it ain't easy. It ain't easy, okay? It's not easy. And to get people to get our people to invest in black media, not just to invest dollars, but to invest and even shares, just to share it on their social media page. It's not an easy thing to do. So we have to just keep driving the fact that investing in us is important. And I hear you and read when you say, what about customer service? Should I invest in a company that gives me bad customer service just because they're black? I hate to say this, but yes. And let me explain why. Because you get bad customer service from big organizations and big companies and you still go back. We go back to them. Chick-fil-A is not open on Sundays. And you know, we love a home cooked meal for Sunday dinner, but nowadays, you know, when you are in your own business, you working probably 7 days a week, and you can't go to Chick-fil-A to get you a meal. And you know, for me, I be hangry, so it makes me angry to not be able to get what I want on Sunday. But guess what? I still go to Chick-fil-A. It's not bad customer service, but that's still a service that they don't provide to their customer on a Sunday. But we still go back. We still patronize. So I'm just saying that don't let a bad experience drive you away from supporting black businesses. Take your time, be patient, understand that it's a bigger picture. It's much bigger than just, well, they had an attitude with me, so I don't want to spend my money with them. Think about the bigger picture. We're trying to keep the black dollar in our community because we're trying to build up our communities, and we're trying to build up businesses and allow the black dollar to circulate like it does in other communities. And speaking of other communities, let's talk about how the black dollar how the dollar circulates and the lifespan of the dollar in other communities. The average lifespan of a dollar in the Asian community is 28 days. The Jewish community is 19 days. Have a lot of respect for those communities. The Asian community, Jewish community, I have a lot of respect for those communities. I have been given great opportunities by people in the Asian community and Jewish community. So I have a lot of respect for them. And in the African American community, it's 6 hours. 6 hours. Not even a full day. We can't even keep a dollar. We can't even keep a dollar in the community for a day. But one reason is because for the most part, we don't really own businesses. We don't really own legit businesses, you know, where if things could be calculated, like they're not established properly. So we have to work on properly establishing our businesses so they can be considered legitimate companies in our counties, in our states, in our cities. That's very important if you are in business to be set up as a business. And I want to recommend someone. I want to recommend someone to follow, Lynn Richardson. She works with MC Light. I watch her a lot. I haven't taken any of her classes, but if you just follow her on Instagram, Lynn Richardson gives out some great advice. Don't listen to your cousin them around the corner down the street that got a PPP loan and just started a business and think they know everything, or just maybe I don't even know what they're doing right now with that money. It's just weird to me. But Lynn Richardson on Instagram, follow her, sign up for her classes. She is, I actually, just to give a little background, I had met Lynn Richardson at my church in Madison when I was a new member. And part of the new member journey, I believe, is financial literacy. If I'm not mistaken, I think that there was like a financial literacy portion of my new members course at church. And she was just laying down some simple, basic things, like certain rules on how we should manage our money. And, certain portion should go to bills, certain portion should go to this, another, 10 to savings, 10 to God. However you break down, or the rules that she was given to break down how to manage your money. And I listened to it, and it really helped prosper me and really helped give me order in my finances to where I was able to start structuring things for my life and began to expand into starting my own business. Because when you're dysfunctionally, financially, personally, how could you have order in starting a business, right? So I recommend checking her out. So 6 hours, you guys. $1 circulates in the Black community for 6 hours. That just makes me want to go to the hood right now and buy something. Making sure I spend it in a black owned place, because all our favorite places in the hood ain't owned by Black people. What's up with that? But furthermore, I got one more topic for you all. One more topic for my great audience that I appreciate so much. And this is a story I found on blackdoctor.org. Do you all follow them? You have to follow them on Facebook, because they give great information for Black people, right? And they put out things that impact our community, impact us personally, and that information that we can pass on. So I saw this and I was like, I have to pass this on. So it's a recent study from the American Heart Association journal found that there is a link between high blood pressure and stroke in a group of Black and white young adults in 4 cities. Particularly, Black young adults are 4 times more likely to have a stroke than their white counterparts. High blood pressure is the #1 cause of stroke, and the blood pressure of young adults in the U.S. had steadily increased over past years. Subsequently, healthcare professionals and researchers have urged closer blood pressure management and monitoring for young adults, especially Black young adults. And it says that the study does not mention biological issues. There's a strong investigation into the social issues of health and how to remedy these factors in order to help mend the gap. But environmental factors such as lack of accessible and affordable health care, food, and places to exercise are being identified as the underlying cause of this disparity. So, yes, young adults that I reach, they're sounding the alarm. Check your blood pressure. Have a blood pressure monitoring regimen. I have an ex who was having blood pressure issues in our 20s. And that was, I almost thought it was like an issue for older adults until I met him and realized he was having high blood pressure issues. And I was just like, well, how? How could you be having these issues? So once again, the research aligns with the reality. When the research aligns with the reality, we have to pay attention. I'm not saying that any other time we shouldn't pay attention to research, but really, when it aligns with the reality, that means that they wasn't, finessing the people that they study, us finessing the research. It's plain and clear, and it is what it is. So look into it, check it out. Make sure you're monitoring your blood pressure. If you are feeling talk to your doctors. The coolest thing is the virtual healthcare, meetings that you can have with your primary care physician now. Take advantage of that. Talk about things. If you're having issues and if you feel funny about something, have these conversations. I encourage you to really begin to talk about more. Health wise, mental health wise, emotional health wise. Let's just get better, get greater as time progresses. Let's just get better. I'm excited about us being great people in this American experience, and we continue on to be the persevering culture that we're known to be. On that serious note, I am going to call it quits. I will see you all next week, Thursday at 8 p.m. Holla at me. Come and check out your girl. I love doing this. I will continue to do it, and hopefully I'll continue to grow. Share with your friends. Like it, comment. There was a few things throughout the content that you can comment on, and I will be happy to engage or dig deeper and go into it even more. So check me out next week, Thursday at 8. I'll holla at you. Peace.